Welcome to the Bird in Hand, everyone. It's good to see old faces again. For this, the 8th HMS Mercury Blue Plaque unveiling. Thank you so much for coming, I really appreciate it. I've lived here in Lovedene for 32 years, and this pub and restaurant has always been my local, on and off. And I've seen the place badly run, very badly run in fact, and I've seen it well run. And I can honestly say that in the last couple of years, it's the best I've ever seen it. And this lady here must take a lot of the credit for that. For those of you who wish to eat afterwards, it's an advert this way. This is the best restaurant in town. Yeah. Sorry? If you look on TripAdvisor, for example, it's number 1 out of 73 in the Waterlooville area. That tells you how good it is.
That's good.
There we go. The beer's good too. A lot of you have found out.
I'm making this up now, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Paid for this?
I've received a lot of messages from ex-Mercurians late, reminiscing about this pub. And most of them lived in the married quarters, which, for those of you who don't know, we're about 3/4 of a mile down there. They're still there, of course, but they're in private hands now. And as you know, most of you know, this is the main road from Mercury down to the married quarters, and you all know how difficult it is for a Matlow to drive past the pub. So, the Bird in Hand was used on many occasions by those people for a swift half on the way home, and as you know, that quite often turned into a session. You know it did.
He was that man.
I'm going to keep this short, which makes a change for me, and I want to talk briefly about our duty unveiler, which is Warrant Officer RS Dave Taverner.
X.
He was well known and well liked character from his days, not only at Mercury but afloat too. His name is sometimes mentioned in the same sentence as the Waffler. Now, not because he talks too much, but because he used to run a very popular weekly newspaper of that name on Ark Royal. I understand that one of his roles in this venture was to be an agony aunt in the paper. So if any of you have a problem, just you see Dave afterwards, and he'll set you straight. I've done my research on Dave, and I've received quite a few bits about him. But picking out my favourite, it's from when he served on Ark Royal, and the ship was in the West Indies. And one day the Ark was lying off a very inviting island, and a banyan was organised by the chief's mess, and about 80 chiefs disembarked with all associated necessities for a banyan, including a large amount of beer, 4 gallons of Buck's Fizz, and enough rum to sink the battleship. Dave, being a congenial chap, volunteered the crew and retained alcoholic intake for the duration of the banyan. After 7 hours on the beach, the 80 chiefs were, as you can imagine, in a state of joviality, shall we say. Yes. You remember it now, don't you?
Unfortunately.
Dave, along with the equally efficient and sober helmsman, a certain Danny Strather, ensured that they were all safely back on the workboat before casting off, which coincided with some 80 warrant officers and chiefs bursting into song, which was audible for miles. Once safely clear of the dangers of the coral, Dave lit up a well-earned cigarette, the last in his packet, and threw the packet into the Caribbean. Halfway through his smoke, and some 4 miles nearer to the ship, Dave realised that the fag packet he had jettisoned contained his dollars, his Belgian dollars. He was determined to reverse the course and find his run ashore money, but it was pointed out to him that they were now 4 miles further from that spot where he had wantonly thrown the money at King Neptune. they had a tide of 45 degrees to their line and a wind at 90 degrees. In that short time, the search area would be some 40 square miles. Additionally, he would have to convince 80 drunken chiefs who were now well into verse 226 of What Shall We Do with a Drunken Sailor, that it was a good idea. Dave was distraught, but had to accept he had lost his money. It later transpired that the total amount in his fat bucket was 20 Bajan dollars, about a fiver.
Yes.
Still, that was a lot in 1950. Especially for him.
And finally, one of the bit which appealed to me, you may have noticed he's got a scar on his forehead. Yeah? Now he will tell you that he got this in action, but actually he didn't. He didn't. He was skylarking one day in the passageway and forgot to duck when climbing through a hatch. He was with a chief yeoman at the time who was smartly dressed in a new fresh white tropical shirt and was desperately trying to keep out of blood spurting range. He managed to get into the sick bay, but for the next few days he looked like a charwaller out of the Vietnam hotline. Thank you once again for coming, and please give a round of applause for Dave Tamner.
Well, I'm not quite as eloquent as David, but I'd like to thank him for giving me the honour of making the speech today. As he's just told you, he is a regular at this pub, and he's been here for quite some time. Yeah, 30 odd years, is it?
32 years, yeah.
Yeah, 32, that's what you say. However, I've got it on authority because this pub was opened in about 1805, and that's when the first pint was brought. By the way, it's quite noisy, so if you can't hear me, shout or just turn your hearing aid up a bit. My hearing aid's turned right up and I can only just hear myself. Right, okay, so in about 1805 they pulled the first pint. Dave was there, he said it was a bit murky, but otherwise it was okay. Now this pub was opened, as I say, in about 1805, and it was a part of the Forest of Beer. Yeah, you might think that's great, that rose beer. Great, but it was spelled differently, it was B-E-R-E. And that was a bastardisation of the word bear from medieval times, from Old English, and that actually meant swine clearings. So, whilst this pub was in the middle of the forest, it was actually not like normal forests, it had lots of clearings about. So, although it was a rural forest, people never came down. Now, this forest was huge. It stretched down to Southampton in the west, over to Chichester in the east, and up via Eastleigh and Havant, all the way up to Farnham, and there's still parts of it left. Alice Holt Forest, the Queen's Enclosure just near us in Cow Plain, and Staunton Park down near Rowlands Castle. There's another little bits as well. Now there was a main road running through the forest. It wasn't like we know it now as the A3. It was a dirt track, a bit wider than normal, and people used it to travel down to Portsmouth to look for work in the Royal Dockyard, and they'd be on foot, or they'd be on horseback, or they'd be in stagecoach. Yeah? Well, where people are travelling, they've got money, and where there's money, there's thieves, vagrants, footpads, highwaymen, and this was quite a dangerous place, believe it or not. And so they used to carry guards on the stagecoaches, a bit like nowadays from the number 7 bus down to Portsmouth. Yeah? So anyway, bring it quickly forward to 1939. Does anybody here support Portsmouth FC?
The one that comes
Yeah, so Hughie's obviously a supporter. We haven't got Cliffy Hale here today, who is really a supporter. And Hughie will be able to tell us that they held it for 6 years over the war years. I can't say because I've had a couple of drinks, but it's a good pub quiz question Yeah, who held the cup for the longest time? And it was Portsmouth FC. Well, they won it in 1939, and that was the start of the war. And with the increasing aerial bombardment from Nazi Germany and occupied France, they decided that they wanted to keep the FA Cup safe. So they moved it north. Guess where they moved it to? Here. Yeah? And the manager used to keep it under his bed. Occasionally he'd get it out. The FA Cup, that is. Always took the rules wisely. And people would drink out of it, especially the regulars. And I'm told that the beer tasted very metallic. Now I got this from a first-hand source. David. He says he's only been coming here for 32 years. Not true. Yeah. Anyway, on a more serious note, to talk about HMS Mercury itself, when I was selected, and I think I was selected because I didn't duck and dive quickly enough to make this speech, I started having a thought. Now, as my wife will tell you, that's few and far between, but this time I did. And what I did was I compared Mercury with other trading establishments down on the coast. And you've got HMS Sultan, which is a huge place with a big bridge going over the main road. Very large and lots of people in it. Same as Collingwood, affectionately known as Collinggrad or Stalag Luft 14. Yeah. What do they have all that barbed wire on the top? I don't know. I think it's to not keep people out, I think it's to keep the sailors in. But I digress. And then I compared it to HMS Mercury. Now Mercury, as you all know, moved up to Leyden in the 40s from the signal school down in the dockyard because of the war. And comparatively, Mercury is quite small and compact, and it's isolated in the lovely rolling hills of the South Downs. And it's my contention that we were more like a family up there. Yeah, we bickered, we squabbled, yeah, but we had some great times. And then the Wrens joined us for Soberton Towers. Didn't change the dynamic at all. In fact, it got even better. Well, I think. So for me, Mercury wasn't the buildings, which have now been organized for most of them. It was the people. Yeah, it was the people that made HMS Mercury. And because we were in close contact, it was like a family. And I know that there's friendships that have gone on 30, 40, 50, even 60 years from when they first met people in HMS Mercury. So what I'd like to do is to unveil the plaque, but this isn't to HMS Mercury, this is to the personnel that were in HMS Mercury over all those years. Thank you very much.